is something interesting that you really just would not expect to see every day. And not only because it's the year 2025 and these kinds of things are getting harder and harder to find, I wasn't even aware that the Sperry Corporation, formerly known as Sperry Rand, after they purchased Remington Rand at some point in either the 60s or the 70s, I don't remember. I didn't know that they had lasted long enough to make something like this. But I guess they did. Now, later on, of course, Sperry was purchased by Burroughs and merged into what later became Unisys. And although Unisys did have some entries into the mainframe world, a lot of the Unisys machines that you see out there are desktop machines, 486s and such like. But this is a PC XT clone, manufactured by or for Sperry. I don't know yet. I haven't made that determination. And it looks like your pretty standard setup here. There's a 5-pin keyboard port that I'm hoping is wired for standard keyboard. Here's the power switch. This is kind of weird. I wonder if this... No. That must be a power LED right there. It's kind of a weird thing to see on an XT clone. 2 5¼ inch bays, again, that's standard. This is interesting. We'll come back to that here in a bit. Of course, it's got asset tags all over the place for where it came from originally, at least who purchased it originally. There's the system unit. Some other information about this. Sperry Corporation, of course, made in Japan. Some dip switches there. And a parallel port for some reason. Usually you see a serial port, but no, that's parallel. The power supply, I hope, works, because that looks like that'd be a pain to replace if I need to do that. Although I think my leading edge uses the same power supply. So maybe they are obtainable. Pretty typical slot layout. 7 slots, plus this 8th one, which is a little bit shorter. I don't know what would have been intended to go there, but obviously something. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the cover on this, and we'll take a look at it from the inside. Alright, here we are inside of the beast. Now, what have we got going on here? It looks like, I'm not really entirely sure what this connection here would have actually gone to. There is a pin style header there. Looks like 30 pins, but I'm not really sure what that would have been. Thank God the explosive device was defused on this, it looks like, before it really did any damage. So that's good. Although I don't know what you would really do about a replacement, because it doesn't look like this has any connection point for another battery. It looks like you'd have to use that somehow, or find some other way to do this. I believe that this was not manufactured by Sperry, it was manufactured for Sperry, and the reason why I say that is take a look at that down there in the corner. That's a Mitsubishi logo. And I was wondering about that when I first took the cover off, because, particularly this power supply, that's a Mitsubishi power supply. And made in Japan. Now, Mitsubishi's a Japanese company. So, that definitely makes a lot of sense, at least in that regard. As far as what this is, there you can see the giant fan. I believe that's a line-connected fan. So we've got a little lip here for the cables to go through. That's thoughtful of them. That's for the 5¼ inch floppy drive, which looks like it was made by Panasonic. Yes. And this hard drive is also very interesting. Look at that. probably can't read. Well, no, you certainly can't read it because it went out of focus. That is a Tulin Corporation model TL226 20 megabyte MFM hard drive connected to this controller card right here, which looks like it was manufactured by DTC. You take a look there. Data Technology Corporation. That's what it says on the edge. No, you can probably read it. But yeah, so those are oddball drives that were one of the first, at least based on my research, they were one of the first drives to use wedge servos, which means that the track information is not encoded on the disk itself, and therefore you cannot do a low-level format on them, because if you do a low-level format, you blow away all that information, and now you've got an expensive paperweight. So hopefully nobody's tried to do that on this. It probably doesn't work anyway, because none of them work anymore. They're even less reliable than mini-scribe drives were. Again, at least based on my research. They're just not good drives, and they weren't good even when they were new. So, then again, neither were mini-scribes, but there are some mini-scribe drives that do survive to this day. I'm not sure there are any Tulin TL226s that are still around in working condition. But hopefully this one is. That'd be nice, right? American Dream, I suppose. It'd be kind of interesting to look this up and see just what it really is. There's the 8088 processor. Of course, this is 8-bit through and through. This looks like it is an aftermarket RAM expansion. And actually, it tells you, look at that. Right there, does it give you a model? It doesn't really give you a model, but it does say Mitsubishi Electric Corporation System Board. Right on it. Prevent static discharge. Well, yeah, that'd be a good idea. That would be a very good idea, but it's hard to say if the board actually has any RAM on it. I don't know. Also, if this is an aftermarket expansion. It does say 512K RAM card, which is out of focus. There we go. And that right there. The image stabilization is not doing a good job, is it? It's also out of focus. Beaver 601. Made in Taiwan. I have no idea what that is. This is the video controller, which also has a parallel port on it. Again, I have no idea what that is. I'm hoping that it's like a Hercules, and it's not something crazy like a, it's not a EGA card or CGA, because I don't really have any way of dealing with that. I have a CGA monitor, but it doesn't work. I don't have an EGA monitor. But I can't really find any markings on the card. I guess I could pull it out, although I really don't want to disturb any aspects of this system. There it is. This is a genuine Hercules board. 1984 Hercules. Kind of odd to see that in a system like this, which was probably manufactured fairly close to the end of life for Sperry Corporation. I mean, 1986 was when they were bought out by Burroughs. But who knows? Kind of nice to see a genuine Hercules board. I haven't seen one of these in a long time. Hope the capacitors are good. But I can go ahead and put that back. And I'm going to go ahead and get a monitor and probably a keyboard. And we should be able to go ahead and hook this up. Hopefully without too much in the way of sparks and explosions. You never know with something like this. There could be reefas in this power supply. But I think this is a little bit too new for reefas, but you never know. There could be reefas in there. There could be tantalum capacitors in there that'll blow up. The electrolytics in here could be bad. Again, you never really know with stuff like this, just plugging it in willy-nilly, but you know what? That's part of the fun. And so that is exactly what we are going to do. Stay tuned while we tune it up for maximum smoke. Also worth noting, one of the case screws was missing. It has one screw in the back and 4 screws, 2 on each side. And I was missing one of the side screws, but I think I found it. Hope I can get it out of there without breaking anything. My bench is pretty busy right now, so I've just got it kind of sitting here on the floor with a monitor. That is perfect for this. It's got a regular plug. Now, it's been a long time since I've had a computer explode. I'd really prefer that this one didn't do it, especially since the smoke alarm is right there. So I've got it pointed in this direction, because if it's going to blow up, hopefully the smoke will all go out that way. But, you know what they say, you only live once. I'm not even going to soft start it or anything like that. Are you ready for this? I don't hear any hissing. I don't see any explosions. Five beeps. The hard drive is issuing a beep code, but we do have video output. Is it going to do anything else? That is a power LED, by the way. Now, 1701. It's not surprising. It might be complaining. That 5 beep code might be because I have no keyboard plugged in. I don't know if that hard drive is just stuck. Wonder if it will go any further. Well, I might have to figure out that hard drive first. Okay, now that I know it's not going to proceed immediately straight to the scene of the fire, I went ahead and I grabbed an XT-compatible keyboard. Let's see what it does this time. Single beep this time. Yeah, that hard drive's not spinning, so it's probably stuck. I don't know that it's going to go further. Okay, well I took the drive cage out, and the spindle is actually accessible from underneath without pulling the drive. I did manage to turn it a couple of revolutions. It seems like it's very stiff, which is not really a surprise. Let's see if it works now. And it's trying. Okay. 1 hard disk. Listen to that drive. Yeah, it looks like we got some problems. But it booted. Look at all that stuff. Let's see how bad this drive actually is. What is that? 10 megabytes in bad sectors? No, that can't be 10 megabytes. "10 kilobytes, that sounds about right. So that's actually not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. So all it was that the disk was stuck. Amazing. And it actually freaking works. I can't believe that that hard drive works at all. Alright. Amazing that that even works at all. It's probably the last one on the planet that still does. But anyway, this is running DOS 5. And someone's loaded the HiMem driver for some reason, as if that's going to even work on an 8088. Because I don't think the 8088 even supports what that would be for, the extended memory. I mean, I know that upper memory blocks were a thing. You could have those, like new XT does, but I don't think that you could actually even do I don't think that you could do extended memory on a PCXT machine. I just don't think it's possible. But anyway, here we go. I'm going to try and not go through any personal information because I don't care. There is a fair amount of stuff on the drive. It's about half full. What if this has... Yeah, it does. You can see there are 640K on this. And it's reporting that it's got extended memory. I don't even know how that's possible, but okay. So there's a couple of interesting things. We take a look here. This obviously has some kind of Norton utility on it. I don't know what that is. Probably Microsoft Word for DOS. Folder of utilities. I don't know what that is. pwplib. I probably should know what that is. No idea. Fastback. That's Norton Fastback. It's a backup program. Memoir, which is French for memory. I don't know what that is. There's the DOS folder. Virus, which is probably McLaffey virus scan if I had to guess. PWP, probably goes to that pwplib. No idea what that is. sd.ini, no idea. We got the usual files. A couple of different copies of autoexec.bat command. Interpreter. Multic.com. I'm kind of curious what that is. Again, I'm not entirely sure, because it doesn't really ring in with any useful information, it's just the copyright. Someone might be along shortly to tell me all about that. People are probably looking at these salad files with interest. I also don't know what OU is. Well, apparently it crashes the machine. So, that's good. I wonder if it would respond to a Control-Alt-Delete. Nope. It is not responding to a Control-Alt-Delete, so I gotta hard reset it. I can hear the bearings in that hard drive. So those are no good. I just hope it's starting up again. Yeah, it is. This is not an auto parking hard drive, so you need the hard disk parking utility in order to do anything with it. Fortunately, this has the parking utility on it. Now I wonder, someone also took the echo off out of AutoExec.bat, which is interesting. They should have a file editor on it, I believe, right? I think edit.com is present in DOS 5. Oh, well, it didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. Well, let's power cycle it. It went into a mode that was well and truly beyond what that monitor can display. So we don't have access to edit.com, because that just broke. This will have to have the operating system reloaded on it at some point. What's interesting and maybe a little concerning to me is that it's not even trying to load from the floppy drive. Let me see if I can find a 5 1/4 inch disc and we'll try it. Okay. Here's a macro assembler disc. Now the disc has got power. Sorry, the drive has got power. Nope, that is not working at all. That is not working in the slightest. And I think I just locked up the machine, so I don't know. That's a little strange. I've never seen that behavior before out of a machine. It could be that it's not configured. I don't believe this thing has a... I don't think this would have any kind of... Yeah, seek error reading drive A. It's not working. So, I mean, the other option would be to find a diskette that works. Yeah, I just tried it with one of the core data disks, and it's not working with that either. So this floppy drive is going to have to come out of here and get replaced. Now, the one thing that's interesting is when this thing signs on, it only signs on as having one hard disk. I don't know if that's normal. I suppose I could probably find out. I'd have to figure out what this motherboard is. Yeah, see, it just errored out there. And this is the CS40 PAL disk. I was using that in a demonstration recently, and it's working just fine. So the problem is definitely with this drive or with the machine's configuration. I'm going to have to look up and figure out what exactly this is, because I have no idea. And I suppose from there, I can figure out the dip switches in the back, because I suppose it's too much to ask that they're labeled in any way. Usually they're not. Now watch it choose to explode because I'm down here. Oops. Yeah, those aren't labeled at all. And I don't suppose they're labeled on the board. In fact, I can't even see what there are on the board. There's another set of dip switches right there, too. And another set even still right there. So I'm going to have to figure out what the dip switches on this machine actually correspond to before writing off that floppy drive entirely. Okay, doing a little bit of research, and someone's probably already pointed all of this out in the comments. But this is apparently equivalent, roughly anyway, to the leading edge Model M. And the motherboard model number is MP1676L, I believe, is what I was told, or what I remember looking up online. That's for the leading edge Model M. The dip switches, none of which correspond to the floppy drive, are labeled, I believe that it's the same board. I've also heard that it's not the same board. I don't know. It's very weird, very wishy-washy, and without any real information to go on, all I can assume is that this is a leading-edge Model M. The board layout matches what I've got, although it's a pretty sparse board layout, so it's pretty obvious and pretty easy to match. I imagine it would match several hundred machines. But I'm going to go ahead and switch this drive out, just for grits and shins, because I have another drive here. This came out of, excuse me, I believe this came out of one of the two Packard Bell XT machines. And I'm just going to try it. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It already doesn't work. It's not like it could be any worse, right? Alright. Figure I'd show off the top of the hard drive because holy crap. Yeah, that looks very, very cheap. And it is not even close to hermetically sealed. Well, maybe. Probably not, though. Most of them weren't. And yeah, there are definitely some bad spots there. And you can see someone might have actually kept up with that. Maybe those are bad spots that were discovered afterwards. I don't know, but one thing that you never, ever, 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 ever want to do with these is to low-level format it. Wow, that is super weird. Look at that. Why would they do it that way? That's odd. That's very odd. It's a very strange drive, that's for darn sure. Well, that's a moderate pain. Check this out. The old floppy drive was reversed. The data connector was there, the power connector was here. Seems like the system's designed for it because the power connector is not going to reach. Well, that's a massive pain. I wonder if I can, because that unscrews, like I could probably take that out and move it, but I don't know how much flexibility I've got on the cable that's going to that board. And I don't know that I really want to pull that all the way back out again. Forget about being tuned up for maximum smoke. We've now got it tuned up for maximum jank. I hope those wires aren't being pinched. Is the hard drive stuck? No, it's spinning up. I still didn't see a light out of the floppy drive. Okay. Oh, there we go. That might work a little better. I'm proud of that. Alright, let's see. Does the drive work? This drive could also be bad, there's that possibility too. But it certainly works a lot better. Oh yeah. So there's something wrong on the control board on this drive. It's a Panasonic drive. I wonder if I have another one of these that maybe has a mechanical problem and I could swap the boards out. Assuming that it is actually a board issue, an electronic issue, because it might not be. I'm greatly curious if this macro assembler disk works at all. Oh yeah. M.exe. Well, that won't work. See if it actually does anything. Alright, so we have a working floppy drive now. And that's good. The hard drive is working. Oh, I'm still on the A drive. Oops. So that's not going to work. I'm going to have to change back. Abort. No, I hit the wrong one. I should hit fail. I never can get the difference between the two right. This displays that out. This was what we had before we had Windows. Now, I guess it doesn't know how to handle that file. I don't know what this is. Looks like it might be a lot of user data. Yeah, it's probably a lot of user data. Same thing with that. Looks like a lot of user data. .ibm. It's not an executable. So exactly what would have been used for, I don't know. Of course, there's the DOS folder. Fast backup. I don't know what the plus actually stands for. I don't remember. If there's subdirectories, which there are, apparently, but I can't actually access them. I guess I have to hit the plus key. It's been a long time since I've used DOS shell, if you can't tell. And I don't know what that really is. There's the Norton stuff. PWP. Nothing there looks to be... Let's try running that batch file. Maybe that wasn't a great idea. Didn't do anything. That probably is exactly what that does. It just deletes a bunch of stuff. There's wordix.exe. Emerging Technology Consultants Wordix. It's trying to read the floppy drive, which is not going to work. Missing or invalid input file. Yes, thank you for that. Okay, well, didn't do anything useful. Bunch of basic files, utilities. Yeah, that vShield, that's McAfee. So, Word, let's see. Can we run Word? PCTools.exe, that's interesting. There's a zip file in there. Let's try running Word. I'm assuming it's the DOS version. Yep, that went into a mode that the computer can't display either. Alright, Control-Alt-Delete. At least it responded to it that time. So I wonder why all of those are displaying in some weird resolution. I guess they're not prepared for Hercules. Okay. HiMem.sys is there. So I'm not sure why it's coming back as bad or missing unless it's corrupted in some way. And maybe it is, I don't know, but that's weird. It also looks like it's loaded the EGA video driver, or it's using the EGA video driver. So I wonder if maybe that's why this thing is going into all kinds of weird modes that it can't display, although that's a Hercules, it's a Hercules monographics card, so it shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, I don't know about that, but here's your quick fix for the floppy drive, and this machine is basically 100%. I find it amazing that that hard drive actually works, although it probably won't for much longer. This is probably salvageable. It might be salvageable, I don't know. Really kind of depends if the sensors are any good. I could try and remove all these connectors and pull this board off. I'm sure I've got another one of these Panasonic drives that just happens to have a mechanical problem. It could also be the jumpers. Could be configured wrong, although that's not really common on these. I would have expected it to be set from the factory anyway, but we'll go ahead and we'll shut this down. As mentioned, this is not an auto parking hard drive, so you do need a parking utility. Pretty interesting to see what's actually in here. Some basic programs. Never ask questions that you don't want to know the answer to. I have no idea why that's in the utility folder, but it's there. So, anyway. Also, FB, long before it was associated with the blue F of Doom, apparently. We'll go and we'll park the hard drive, and we'll park this video. That's something that you probably don't usually have to do. Yeah, it's in French. No, I don't care. Thanks for watching, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them below. Even after doing all that running, the hard drive bearings sound really bad.